How are the Minnesota Twins going to win back their fans? Let me know what you think in the comments, because right now the Minnesota Twins are setting attendance records, and obviously not good ones. In Tuesday's game against the Chicago White Sox, there was a new Target Field low record of 11,721 people in attendance. Now, I don't even know if that was how many people were in attendance. We've seen the videos from Target. It was Bark at the Park Day. That park looked like a barren wasteland. And the other thing I'm interested to know is does that 11,721 number actually include the dogs as well? Because you actually had to buy a ticket for your dog if you brought them to the park. So based on that information, plus the videos that we've seen, I think that number might be like double the actual number of people that were in the stands on Tuesday. And now after that 3-game series where, by the way, the Minnesota Twins got swept by the Chicago White Sox, if you add all 3 games attendances from that series, it would still not fill Target Field. It would be close. It would be close, but it was about 1,000 to 2,000 people short of selling out Target Field if you were to add all 3 of those games together. So that just kind of tells you the state of the team. Now, there are some factors that are out of their control. You know, the Chicago White Sox aren't going to be bringing anybody to the ballpark. Either are the Minnesota Twins, but that's kind of in their control. It was the first day of school, specifically on Tuesday, for a lot of kids and families, and the first week of school. It's been unseasonably kind of chilly here in early September, so lots of reasons for people not to go to the ballpark, even if the Twins were competitive and people weren't boycotting the team. But alas, that was all a recipe for a pretty ugly showing in attendance records for this week. And again, now we are on pace to set the lowest record for attendance in a season in Target Field's history since 2010. So the Twins have a lot of work to do to win back their fans. And I think if we get back to the original question, the easy answer is to say, well, sell the team. But we know that at least in the short term, that's not going to happen. The Pohlads are going to be at least the majority owners of the Minnesota Twins for the foreseeable future, for sure in 2026, 2027, and the next handful of years. And for me, I think we need to separate the Pohlads from the Minnesota Twins. I posted on TikTok the other day, I don't think boycotting the Minnesota Twins is the best solution. I think that validates the Pohlads, and I think that could have some longer-term ramifications that we don't really want here in Minnesota. So completely boycotting the team, I don't think is the answer. But again, that I want to support the Minnesota Twins. I just don't want to support the Pohlad family. So that's where I think we have to compartmentalize that a little bit. And so what can the Minnesota Twins do? They can retain their core players. Pablo Lopez. I almost just said Sonny Gray, random. Joe Ryan, Royce Lewis, those guys, Brooks Lee, maybe even, you know, he's a little young. He's still got arbitration years, but that group of core young talent, retain those guys. The guys that back in 2023, when everything seemed to be going great, and the Twins fans were on top of the world, those guys, retain those guys for the short term. There's a lot of rumors going around that Pablo Lopez is going to be traded, maybe Joe Ryan in the offseason, and that's just, we're going to be sending new attendance records next year if those things happen. So that's the first thing they can just retain. I'm not even saying spend more money, just retain the core that you have. What else can they do? Well, we've got the second best farm system in baseball, and we've got some intriguing prospects that are getting into the upper levels. Of course, Walker Jenkins, one of the best prospects in baseball, the number 1 prospect in the Twins organization, was recently called up to the St. Paul Saints. So he is one step away from the big leagues. We won't see him this year, of course, but he is going to be a non-roster invite next spring and spring training, and he could very well be a candidate for the opening day roster. Now, I'm not going to bet on that. I would guess he's probably going to start in St. Paul, especially with the number of left-handed hitting outfielders this roster now has on it. But I think you pushing those guys up so that fans have something to get excited about, have something to lean on for a reason to go to watch Twins games. Promoting your young talent, even if maybe you deem they're not quite ready yet, is going to be a big step in the right direction. I think the other thing is you're going to have to get creative with fan experiences. The Target Field has been really good about that. You know, they've got that porch out in right field, the Target Field Plaza there with, especially on Sundays, games for the kids and things like that. But they're going to have to continue being creative in how and why they get fans to the park, whether it's giveaways, special ticket offers and packages like they've done recently. Things like that, they're going to have to do that more, again, if they want to sell tickets. And then I think the biggest thing is they just need to communicate what their direction is. Again, the poll ads have zero trust right now with the fan base. They sent out that letter following the trade deadline, and it wasn't taken well by anybody. But I think the front office needs to clearly communicate what the plan is. Are we just kind of retooling with what we did at the deadline? Do we think we can build this bullpen back rather quickly with some of the offensive young talent that we have developing and coming up, and we still have a fairly strong pitching rotation? And so is this kind of just a retool in 2026 and maybe 2027, and then we're competitive hopefully in 2028? Or are we thinking a long-term rebuild? There's just a lot of unknowns, and because of that unknown, that's just another reason for fans not to invest themselves into the team. Like maybe some fans are saying, I'm just going to wait until they're good again and then I will start to pay attention. But when is that going to be? What's the Twins' plan with that? Again, is it a short-term retool or is it a long-term rebuild? I think clear communication there would help. But one way or another, they have their work cut out for them. They need to win Twins fans back. And again, I think a lot of people aren't going to be back until the poll ads ultimately sell. But for those people that are still kind of on the fence, they're going to have to retain their core. They're going to have to call up those young, exciting players. They're going to have to improve the fan experience at Target Field and just generally be clear in how they communicate these things to the fan base. So let me know what you think. Are you planning on completely boycotting the Twins, or are you kind of a wait and see how things go? Let us know in the comments. And of course, visit twinsdaily.com for more.